Hello, everybody. I am here tonight with Miss Jeannie, and we are going to be talking about motherhood and raising children, and we are going to be answering some of the questions that you guys have had. Miss Jeannie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, Jeannie Gilpin. I live in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia with my husband Eddie, and I have two grown children that are married and six grandchildren. And so I'm living life to the fullest now. I get to do a lot more speaking and retreats and things that I make now that I'm a retired teacher. So that's about the size of it. I don't, it's not very exciting over here.
Oh man. Well, let's jump right into it. Do you have any practical advice for young women on homemaking?
Do you mean like starting a home or keeping a home or that in general? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, just in general, any any wisdom, words of wisdom you'd like to give.
Well, wherever I've been married 42 years, and wherever I've lived, at one time, I mean, we've lived obviously in our own houses that we bought, and we lived in a house when we didn't have any children yet. And I've been married to a preacher for 40 of those years. So there was one time we lived in a house that the church owned. That was part of our salary. And we also lived in Africa in the 90s in
Oh,
a
wow.
concrete block house with concrete floors. So, I've lived in a lot of different houses, but the thing that I'm not sure why or where I got it, but I always felt like that was my home, wherever I lived. I
Mhm.
mean, I could tell you horror stories about people that thought they owned the church house since the church owned it. And I never let people make me feel like that wasn't my home.
Mhm.
If I lived there and the people in that house, it was a house, just a house, but that became a home because the people inside of it were important. And I was taking care of the people inside of it. So it's your home to make. And you shouldn't be concerned about it's hard because us women in America these days, but um we shouldn't be concerned with impressing people, or what it looks like. And we get caught up in appearances sometimes, but it's my home as long as I live there and the people that I think are important. And so I just always conducted myself that way. I don't know. That's my advice, to feel like that's your home wherever it is and whatever it looks like, and to make it what you want it to be.
Yeah, I love that. That's such an important thing to remember, for sure. What advice do you have on disciplining
Yeah.
children?
Uh, I get asked to speak about this a lot.
Mhm.
At polishing the pulpit and at retreats. And then even if I'm just doing a ladies thing, they'll say, could you put something in there about, and then they'll tell me some problem, that's going on. And it's usually involving that children are out of control. Uh,
Mhm.
but discipline is not a dirty word. It's it's a way, it's a training. We could replace the word with training. You're training someone. And that discipline doesn't always mean spanking or something horrible is going to happen, but it just means you're training that person. And when God gives us people to raise, we're not raising children, we're raising adults. And
Mm.
so I always thought, what do you want it to look like when they're 18? Do you want them to be playing on their phone in worship? Then give it to them when they're 3. What do you want it to look like when they're 21? Do you want them sitting there looking all cool and not singing when we're supposed to be singing? Then don't require that they sing when they're 7. And so I always looked at it like it's one step, and then we're going to take the next step. And when they were old enough to stand up while we sang, they stood up. And then when they could read the words, then they were required to read. And so what I always say when I talk about disciplining children, I don't have all the answers. I don't have Well, I have more answers now that I'm finished with it than I had when I was doing that.
Mhm.
But the number one thing is obedience in
Mhm.
disciplined children. If you can teach them to obey, the rest of it is so much easier. Ephesians 6:1 says, Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. And we're told over and over and over again in Proverbs about teaching children. And we're even told about if you spare the rod, you spoil the child in Proverbs 13:24. And chasten thy son while there is hope in Proverbs 19:18 says that there comes a time when there's no more hope. So in disciplining children, you've got them for just it's just like that. I mean, and it's gone. I can't even tell you what I feel like that I know that my oldest child is going to be 40 years old next month. So I'm going to feel pretty bad about that. But it just seems so short, right?
Mhm.
So it goes by, and so the whole time I was fighting, and not all the time fighting with them, but I was fighting with the world to keep,
Mhm.
pulling them away from what I was trying to teach. And so, we had rules, and sometimes we would bend the rules, but if you go to my children today, they're 36 and almost 40, and you say, what do you know about your parents when they were raising you? And they would say, we always knew they were in charge.
Mm.
And so that's the way it ought to be. And so many times today, we hear this gentle parenting. Spanking is biblical when it's called for. I mean, I
Mhm.
never wanted to spank my kids. I didn't want
Mhm.
to. But God told me to get them in control and to discipline them and to teach them. And so I did that job, and I knew they were leaving, and they needed to be two self-assured, confident Christian men that knew how to discipline themselves and that knew how to rein in their own right and wrong when I wasn't there to do it. I mean, they left home when they were 18 and they went to school, and I wasn't there anymore to tell them it was bedtime, do their homework, don't be around that person, you shouldn't do this or that. So the discipline that I gave them from the time that they were an infant till the time they left home, that's what sustained them, to be faithful Christians today. So obedience is number one. And they learned consequences when they were at home, like speeding tickets. And I mean, we could go on all month on this topic, but I made sure that while they were under my umbrella at home, that they suffered consequences of bad grades. I never went and fixed anything for them. Each one of them got a ticket. They had to pay for it. I thanked the police officer in one aspect when he was still there. I wanted them to suffer consequences and learn from that before they left my home. And as a teacher, I saw a lot of parents that would try to, move everything out of the way so that their little darlings didn't suffer any consequences. And I don't think that works out very well. So, in asking me, about disciplining children, parents are in charge, and obedience is the number one. And go to whatever lengths you have to make sure that they learn to obey you. It's a pretty
Mhm.
lengthy answer for
No, that was a great answer. I loved all of that. Thank you for sharing. I guess this kind of goes hand in hand with that. What are some practical tips for raising children to be faithful adults?
Well, every answer we have, whether we know where it is or not, it's in the Bible.
Hmm.
And Deuteronomy 6:7, also 11:19 says the same thing. Teach thy children diligently. And it tells you the four places to do it. When you sittest in the house, when you walkest by the way, when you lies down, when you rise up. All day long, in everything you're doing, you're teaching them. You're modeling them, even when you're not talking. You're saying don't do that. I mean, if I had a nickel for, every correction you made for somebody during the day, I'd be wealthy, right? So we are so blessed that both of our children are faithful Christians, husbands, they've been married. One got married in 2006 and the other one in 2012. So they've been married more than a few years. They have children they're raising. Three are homeschooled, three are going to public school. And so they're navigating life, on their own terms. I'm not there. I don't talk to them. Sometimes we go weeks without talking. But, through social media, we can sort of be connected. But we taught them about spiritual goals. We taught them about giving. We taught them we were consistent as as human beings could possibly be. We didn't say, this is what we do on Sunday. We do this because your daddy's a preacher. We didn't say any of that. We taught them that this is what God commands of us. Yeah, see, we don't hang out with them because they drink alcohol. Yeah, see, we can't be a member at the swimming club. And we would tell them why. These are not things that we need to encourage ourselves to be around. Christians are, we're a treasure. God said we're peculiar, but we're not supposed to be odd, if that makes any sense. But when you're raising children and you're trying to, like I said, you're not raising children, you're raising men
Mhm.
or women. You can't lead them where you're not going. And they can spot a
Mhm.
phony any day of the week. So when mom and daddy are not, that's like the most important thing to me. You're living your faith out in front of them every day. Every decision, your conversations as adults, when you're having, they hear how you're talking to each other, they hear the words you're using. And so you can't lead them where you're not going. And it's to be consistent. If you show, and another thing we did, we started out right from the beginning, we said, church, this is when we first got married, we didn't have any children. And so we said, church attendance we're going to be there Sunday morning, Bible class, worship, Sunday evening, afternoon, gospel meetings, vacation Bible school, leadership conference, whatever. We're just going to be church freaks. And if we're not there, they're going to know, hey, something is wrong with the Gilpins because they're not here. They're always here. So we decided we were going to do that. Well, then when our children, one of them was a really good athlete in baseball. And we had people to say, well, can't they just miss then? What do you mean they have to leave at 6:45? He's the pitcher. Like what are you talking about? But see, you had to realize that worldly people are worldly, and they don't get that. So if it all of a sudden, if church attendance becomes optional, then for your children when they're adults, it'll be really optional.
Mhm.
It won't be a big deal at all.
Mhm.
And so you're teaching people how they should view worshiping God and how important that is and how unimportant all of the things in the world are. And so to raise faithful Christians is really hard. And I was praying and praying all of those years. And the reason it's hard is because the world wants them really bad.
Mhm.
And the until they are an adult and have a mature sense of what's right and wrong, to them, they are tempted by that. And so you as the parent have to say, and, we had to go to a coach or two and say, listen, I hear you, but he doesn't have that ability to give you what you're asking for because we have control of that. And he's going to be at 7 o'clock Bible class. He's going to be, and you know what? We went in baseball clothes and the other one played sports, rugby, basketball. We went in pieces of outfits. You don't call that an outfit. You call it a uniform. And we went in pieces of uniforms sometimes, but we were there. And
Mhm.
so the important thing was this is where you should be. And so my grandchildren are being raised by that. And I'm so thankful. I mean, they're 36 and 39. It could go bad at any time. Because it's gone good up until this point does not mean that I think that they'll never make a bad decision, that they could never leave. I know that they could. And so what we did was I was a teacher, Eddie was a preacher, and we just believed in being normal. I didn't I didn't make mine wear velvet knickers when the rest of the kids, were wearing jeans on Sunday nights.
Hmm.
And so I just let them be normal, whatever normal is. I mean, normal is really like a place in unicorn land that doesn't even really exist. But as much as possible, to let them be, part of the group. They don't have to be different in everything.
Hmm.
But they just saw mom and daddy trying the hardest they could be to be consistently be a faithful Christian. And we said no a lot, a lot. And we said yes sometimes. And they played sports and they did everything else children are doing. But they were taught that, your Christian walk is the most important thing. And that's where you should be with those people that encourage you. So we have two faithful Christian husbands, daddies right now. And I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, what is one thing that you did when raising your boys that worked really well for you?
Um, we pick their friends.
Okay.
And somebody says, you can't pick their friends. And your kids went to public school. Yes, they did. Both of them, Eddie and I went to public school, and both of our boys went to public school. And besides Africa, I taught them in Africa, and I taught 14 kids on 9 different grade levels, and they were two of them.
Oh, wow.
But besides that, they went to public school. And when you say, well, they're at school, you can't pick their friends. Well, you kind of can. So we monitored who they ran around with. And because I was in the school system and parents, and you could just kind of find out these things, we provided the gathering place. And I'm really glad of that. That's what we spent money on. We had at one house, we had a swimming pool, basketball court, we had a trampoline, and we spent money on that. We didn't complain about the sandwiches I made and the money that we spent on drinks and things like that. But we just monitored who they ran around with. We discussed their non-Christian friends, and the things that they participated in and activities that we couldn't do. Like I said before, God has said that Christians are a peculiar people. That just means different. We don't look like the world and act like the world, or we shouldn't. And so that was one thing we did. I asked a lot of questions. I never let them go off to anybody's house that I didn't know their parents and what was going to happen there. They were at my house. And then I guess the other thing that really helped develop them into a man is we required that they got a part-time job. So after they started driving, they had a part-time job that was at a good place to work for somebody else, and made their own money. And so there was even a girl that everybody thought that the softball girls pitcher would look really good with the baseball team's shortstop. So that he asked her out one time thinking she's not anything like a Christian, but you know, he's 17. So he forgot his wallet and he came back to the house for the wallet. And the girl was, she was scantily clothed. And we were like, so he went on his date. And when he came back that night, we looked at him and we said, that's not what you should be hanging around with. And because of the teaching that he'd had up to that point, he said, I know, Mom. I was kind of just not boring things. Who thought that the bathing suits in 1950 would be the homecoming dresses in 2024?
Mhm.
And it's embarrassing. And so we didn't just tiptoe around that, but that worked well for us knowing, and they knew that, like, he knew my mama was going to be in his business. His mama was going to be in his business. One of my friends said, "This drawer?" I said, of course I can. It's mine. It's my house. We took a door off the hinges one time because it kept getting accidentally locked.
Mm.
And so it goes back to the obedience part, and it goes back to my children knowing that, okay, my parents were in charge and we knew
Mhm.
it. And that just kind of, you know, everybody knows what page we're on. We're doing the right thing. They're not going to ignore it if I'm not acting the way that I should. So pick their friends is an option.
Yes, I've never heard that before. That is some great advice there. I love that. So, on the other side of that, what is
I don't
one
know if
thing?
you ask them.
What is one thing that you would do differently if you could raise your kids again?
Well, I made a million mistakes, a million. And if I could go back again, I would. I would go back and I would change so many of those. But if you ask me what I would do over again in the big scheme of things, I would just slow down. Like
Mm-hmm.
everything does not have to be so serious. There would be more laughing and I don't know, that's a 62-year-old person trying to think like a, 28-year-old person would think, and that's hard to do. But when you're in child rearing, it's you just get caught up in it, and it's so easy to think, okay, I've got to do everything right, and I've got to be so serious because everything is important, and it is. And I don't want to act like it wasn't, but there would be more talking and laughing. Now, I did get Mother of the Year one time because I'm a teacher. And so you go to school and you don't skip and you do your homework and you make A's, and that's what you do. But one time he was a senior and his best friend, they came to me one time and I knew something was up because here they both come. Mom, we need to ask you something. Okay. So like here it comes. And he's 18, he's a good kid. He plays sports, he juggles, he preaches at church, he leads singing, he's just a great kid. I know he's mine. But they came and said, the Star Wars, this is when like in 2006 when the Star Wars came out, and it really was, you found out the one you knew about was number four, and this was going to be number one. And so it was the, grand premiere, and it was like this big thing. And so he goes, the matinee is going to be at 1:30 at the movie theater, and we want to leave school and go, but you have to write a note for us. Now, Mom, and he starts in, it's this class and that class, and I've got all my homework done, and I've got an A, and blah, 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 blah. And so before he stopped talking, I said, okay. And they looked at me, and he said, we can leave school at 1:30 and go. And I said, yeah, if all the things you just told me are true, you can go this one time. You can skip school and go. And they just like turned cartwheels. And so after they left, I thought, oh, I just got parent of the year. So that's kind of what I was saying. If I could do it all over again, I wouldn't be so serious about everything. And there would
Hmm.
just be more fun and turn the chicken off sometimes and go do what they want you to do. And I don't know. I was just like everybody, I guess, being on a schedule, and dinner and homework, and I don't know, more family devotionals. I would have tried more intentionally. I didn't do this intentionally. I hope I was this mom, but I would have tried more intentionally to raise children that when they made mistakes, and they will, just like I did, um, that when they make mistakes, the first thought is, I've got to tell mom instead of mom's going to kill me, and
Hmm.
so as they get 16, 17, 18, that's what I would hope mine thought. So, oh man, I'd go back and I'd change a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. We're just serious.
Yeah, I love that. Well, what advice do you have for young mothers trying to make time for God in their lives?
Really, really good question and really tough to do. Been there,
Hmm.
done that. Um, so it's not going to accidentally happen for you that in
Hmm.
your day, every day, that you make time to commune with the Savior. It's just not going to accidentally happen. So for everybody, I'm not a get up early person. I'm a stay up late person. Just that's
Mm-hmm.
just my natural clock. And so I did most of that at night after babies went to bed at 8:30. Yes. I put children in the bed early. And they said, "I'm not sleepy and I don't want to go." And I said, "Too bad. I've had you all day long and now I got some stuff to do, so you're going to bed." So they went to bed at 8:30, 9 o'clock. That was also time for me and Eddie to have time together and have adult
Mm-hmm.
conversation, and I really needed that. So that was my time to study. Um, for young mothers, you must take those babies to baby class. You must. I know you don't think they're big enough at 6 months, but the people in there have told you they're going to take care of them and they'll come get you. Something happens. You must take those babies to class. Somebody might say, "Well, we don't have a babies class. We've got a small congregation." Okay, so here's what you do. You create a baby class and you recruit somebody, and then you pass it off and you ask around and you get some Palma Smiley stuff and you make it. You absolutely have to take them to Bible class so that you can go to your class. And you have to go to ladies' class. If it's every Sunday, or if it's just Wednesday night, or if it's once a month, like we have at our congregation. On Saturday, we have breakfast and we have ladies' class and we study for 2 hours. You must go to class. You've just got to go. In all of this marriage, life, because what's it going to look like when you've raised children? They left home. It's been 24 years and you haven't really taken care of your spiritual life.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, it's it's going to be bad looking at it from the other side. Get up early. It gets really hectic after those people are awake. Stay up late. It just depends on what you do. And also in this day and time, during the day, even when your children are doing something else, you can listen to podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
There's a jillion out there that are great, that I listen to. Um, there's articles you can be reading online in your tablet when you're sitting there, with the kids and they're eating or they're doing something else. You can listen in the car while you're traveling somewhere. Really good um, earbuds. And when I'm in the car and somebody else is doing something else, I can still listen to that. Take the kids to nursing homes and show them what it means to, make somebody else happy. And those are the things, you've got to make time for yourself because, I mean, you're going to be looking at a 36-year-old and a 39-year-old, and you haven't read a book in decades, and you haven't studied, and you don't, it's been a long time since, you just can't let that go.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it all. You can do it, but you just got to plan it and make sure that you take time for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Well, it looks like we're running out of time here, but I have really enjoyed talking
Yes.
with you today. I feel like I could talk to you for hours. I'm just soaking in all this
Oh,
information.
yeah, it just went by. I mean, but I take I've talked for a living, so I can do that. I can fill the time up. It's not, but you're so nice, and I appreciate you asking me to do this, and I hope that it's been some beneficial to someone. So I appreciate the invitation.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you.